Hello, everybody. Old Buck Dave back again, episode 207, and I'm smiling because we've had such a interesting pre-show chat here, some of which we'll be able to actually share with you, and some won't. So, who's this guy with me?
Yeah, old
Yeah.
Buckdell.
Old Buck Dale, how you doing, man?
I'm having it in there. It's just,
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, it's been like 2.5 weeks now since our last episode. Our last episode was pre-election. We won't talk about that too much. But so
well,
what's going on with you since then?
it's funny thing. There was only in that 2.5 weeks. I think there was only maybe two small little robusto cigars and some couple of dinners and visit with an author and
Wait a minute.
a
Visit
movie.
with an author. Come on.
Yeah. I know you want to hear about that.
I do want to hear about that.
We both read the latest book by Amor Towles, Amor,
Yep.
and he was invited to the library association in our county. Apparently, they pick authors and send them an invitation. So, got a chance to visit with him in a full auditorium. By the way, there was a full crowd of people showed up to hear him speak.
Well, that wouldn't surprise me that it was full.
I think he has a pretty good following.
If
And
if anybody's not familiar, what's his most famous book?
well, he thinks it's Rules of Civility, and I thought it was Gentleman in Moscow.
Wow, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
Of course,
So
I haven't read Rules of Civility. You kind of advised me. You said
I,
it's
I
not
did
the.
I did read that one, and it was I mean, if you like his writing style, there's a story there. And the latest book, which I picked up at his book signing, was A Table for Two, which is a series of short stories, which were kind of cute, and the novella, which I haven't finished, but it's
Mhm.
based a little bit on that um, the book Rules of Civility. But all in all, to meet an author, and he's obviously quite popular. Uh, it's exciting. It's a fun thing to do to hear them how they build their books and how he did what he did, and he then told some life stories that now I can see it's been weaved into his story.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Had he not told had he not told the audience of his early um, New York experiences and work experiences and things, I would not have put it together. I just assume that every author makes everything up, but in reality, they have to refer to something in their past or something. So it
In
was quite,
reality, all fiction
yeah, it's got a little bit of truth to it.
has truth at the basis of it somewhere. Absolutely.
Yeah, but all in all, it was a good experience, and I know you would have been there had you been able. But I was glad there, and as I mentioned to you afterwards, it was a sea of gray hair in every direction because I was sitting well in the back, and all you could see was just a massive gray gray
Mm.
hair.
Well, you didn't have
So
to worry about that.
no, I did
You
not,
had
but
your hat on.
I was being reflected, of course, in the theater
Being
lights. It was
reflected.
blinding the people behind me. So all in all, I did do that, and we were moving around. I mean, it was a really a convenient, nice location. So anybody gets a chance, I guess, to see the author of their favorite book, all Bucks encourage them to do that. So
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten to see a number of authors over the years. Not not hundreds, but half a dozen or
well, we met a lot of new authors, which we found
well, we
absolutely
met a lot of new
fascinating.
authors. Yeah,
People
I
that
wasn't.
did not become famous in their, they did write a book, and we talked to them, and we always thought that was an amazing because we know how hard that is to do. So
Yeah, I remember went to see Ann Patchett. She talked about one of her books. She's one of my favorite authors, and
mm,
anyway, she's like about 4'6". Okay, and I wouldn't mess with her. She's tough as nails. She was such a hoot, and very, very, very forceful, very assertive in her. I mean, she's clearly there's a reason that she's successful. Anyway, well, we could go on and talk about authors
yeah,
sometime, but so you enjoyed Amor.
I did.
Yeah, highly recommend it to anybody. Go see an author. talk
Well,
about
yeah, pick
his
some
or
of
her
his
book.
stuff up.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll like it too. So,
Hey, speaking of books,
hmm
I found this on the internet somewhere, and I didn't write down where I found it, but this is the best book opening ever. Okay. And I'm just going to read
When
couple,
you say book up, you mean the first sentence in the
the
book or
first
something?
couple sentences in the book. Okay.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of
Well,
times.
it's some similar. It's very similar. Now, the title of the book is Thermodynamics and Statistical Mechanics.
There you go.
Now, that's something that'll put you to sleep right
I
away.
was going to
Okay.
say, there you go.
Unfortunately, I had to study that at one time. So, anyway, but this is not the textbook I use, but I don't know how I came across this, but I think you'll enjoy this. Okay. So, this is the beginning. This is the first couple sentences of the book. Ludwig Boltzmann, who spent much of his life studying statistical mechanics, died in 1906 by his own hand. Paul Ehrenfest, carrying on the work, died similarly in 1933. Now it is our turn to study statistical mechanics. Perhaps it will be wise to approach the subject cautiously. Isn't that great? This is a
And then,
this is a thermodynamics
then off the
text.
story goes, right? As
Had
it goes through.
a little bit of humor there, a little bit of yeah. I thought that was great. That was funny. Yeah,
Well,
it's the things that I find funny other
yeah,
people
yeah, the
don't.
things that you
I
find
know.
funny, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Well, listen, I heard you went to a movie as well.
hey, I got to tell you, it's been a really quite an interesting couple of weeks.
You've been a busy guy.
I've been a busy guy. One of the things was the wife was on vacation, and that puts a little pressure on the normal program. You know what I mean? You have to.
By the way, people write me letters saying, "Why does he call her the wife?"
The only
Is
one.
this is this is this an age related thing?
Yeah,
Is
the
this an
wife.
era related thing?
The wife. So there's a
Like,
little bit of pressure there to to do something different, and so we one of the things was I said, would you be interested in the movie? Because we're fortunate enough to have a pretty good selection of options,
yeah.
in our neighborhood. We're a we live in an area where what entertaining visitors is our like a primary source of activity. You know what I mean? Although as a local, we get pushed out of all those markets when they come down. So
Yeah, they come down and there's no restaurant reservations left. Yeah.
right. So it was there was something interesting that was seemed to be going on. You notice that in the movie industry now, there's a one called The Gladiator. Did you see that
I just
advertisement?
saw that's like Gladiator 2 or Gladiator Revisited or something like that.
It's
It's an
got
updated
some,
version of the old Russell Crowe thing. Is that what it
yeah, it
is?
got some good reviews on it. Said it's
Did
not
it?
the
Okay.
same, but I think what I noticed was there's this there's this sort of battle going on. Do you know what I
Wow.
mean? It's like in the movie Conclave. Now, I understand there was a book by Richard Harris, I think his name, who wrote that book. I didn't read the book, but I saw the movie. And this takes place in one basic room under very strict circumstances. This is they're going to elect a pope. And they have
Okay.
very rigorous, very specific rules. Once they shut the doors, they stay inside this building until they come up with a vote. And the way it is, they vote um, and until they get enough people to get a majority. And so the first vote in electing the Pope might have 20 candidates.
Okay.
And then it just goes on and on and on. But under
So
these, yeah, under this enclosed environment, the scheming and
the political intrigue.
the political intrigue that goes on with all this. I mean, I thought it was well, maybe it was appropriate that they set it off at this time. You know what I mean? In our world as it is, and then the Gladiator is another beat 'em up, situation too. And so all this stuff is looking together. So we sat through that. Unfortunately for me, they talk uh, in very hushed tones. So I did not pick up all the dialogue, but the wife did. So she was able to interpret. I said, "What did he say? What did he say?"
Still the
Yeah,
wife. Okay.
yeah, my wife did. So she was able to tell me what, because her hearing is much better than mine. She was able to tell me what they were saying. I said, "What did he say?
Okay.
What did he
She
say?"
would whisper in your ear.
Yeah, she'd whisper and she'd say, "He said this and he said that." So I would recommend. Um, I mean, it's not a religious movie by any means,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not based on anything uh, as a true story. I mean, they couldn't verify this, but they wove together a very plausible series of circumstances and how they got out of it, and who was in charge. And it has a kind of a twisted ending,
Mm-hmm.
but it just dawned on me that all this stuff is going on, and it was almost like the real world. It's like a miniature version of what's going on in the world, the drama and the little,
Ah.
you know what I mean? Like
Uh-huh.
there's,
Okay.
I mean, you could easily transfer this whole scene into the real world today. We have no idea what's going on behind the world. We can't control it. We're just watching it, and we may hear about it again later in history if we live long enough to see
I
how it ends.
I just listened to a podcast, two historians, and they were talking about different republics through history. And that,
That did or did not survive.
well, they say the average lifespan of a republic has been 300 years. Athens was the first, it lasted 200 years. Uh, and one of the points they were making is, well, these were different times in history, different cultures, different circumstances. The one thing that was constant was human nature. They say human nature remains unchanged. So I thought that was,
So we could be in for a bit of a disruption.
well, we'll see, won't we? But you're recommending Conclave as a movie.
I, I would say, go
How many
see it.
stars? How many
Um,
stars?
okay, 5 stars being the best. I would say that was a good uh, 375 in stars, 3.75.
3.75. Okay.
Yeah,
That's,
if you just sat back and enjoyed the drama and the scenery and the little twists and turns, I thought it was worth. The movie theater that we were in was almost full. Of
okay.
course, a sea of gray.
Another sea of gray. Yeah. Well, that's what
Yeah, a
happens.
sea of gray.
Jeez.
So
So,
so
okay.
that was that.
So that was that.
So other than that's one of the things that we were doing on the mission, except maybe going out to dinner and a couple things like that.
Mm-hmm.
We managed to fit a couple of those in there, which is as you know, can be an expensive proposition. Uh, the old
Let let
$25 meal for two is out of is no longer
let those
available.
let some of those flies out of your wallet here. Open that sucker up.
Yeah, yeah.
Come on. Well,
So
listen,
go ahead.
I was going to say, while you were rambling around having a grand time, I had some events also.
Uh-huh.
I
And
got I got shingles again.
I think wasn't I remember you mentioned that, and I wrote what was my response was again, but
Again?
that
Yeah,
actually can occur anytime. I think it's a
apparently.
yeah.
Yeah. So I was this was it was middle of a week, and I was just feeling a little like a sore spot here on my rib. And I checked. It's not black and blue. It's not swollen. It's not red. Like, okay, da, da, da. And the next day it was like bigger and it started tingling. And the next day it was bigger. Yeah, it was covering my whole
And
rib
you
cage.
must have recognized it by then. You said,
By then
"Oh,
I said, this is shingles because I've had
yeah."
shingles before. So I
That isn't
dashed
that from
off to the,
getting isn't that from our getting chicken pox as a kids?
yes, yeah, it's the chicken pox. The virus stays somewhere in your nervous system.
It's right up here, buddy. I think it's in
Yeah, I don't know where it is,
your brain holds
but
onto it and then
the
sends
good
it out.
news is this: I knew it was happening. I went to the urgent care down the street. They gave me
Oh,
the antivirals, and within a week I was fine. It was very mild. It was very mild, And yes, I've had all the shingle shots, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to get shingles again. So it was a minor thing. It was an annoyance more than anything,
So we were busy experiencing different things as usual.
as usual. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I also went to the James Museum in St. Pete. Have you ever been to the James Museum of Western and Wildlife Art?
I did.
Did you? Okay.
As a matter of fact, that's right downtown, and
It is right downtown.
they've got some fantastic sculptures of Indians and things. And I think I got a picture of me sitting with the old guy out front, the old cowboy on the bench.
On the bench, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and that's a private institution, I think.
yeah. I would say it exceeded my expectations. I wasn't like, okay, it'll be nice, and we'll see some cowboys and some wildlife. But boy, oh boy, it was really well done, and it was partitioned off into different eras. There was the
Mhm.
Wild West sections of the Native American stuff, Hispanic immigrant section. There was a Mexico room, which I thought was really spectacular. I was,
Did
I'd say go. It was for anybody that's in the area, go.
were you impressed that they even got those things in there?
Oh man, yeah,
I
it
gave
was
the my impression was they built the building around them.
around some
That
of the
they
sculptures.
somehow they somehow put them in those spots
Yeah,
and then just kept on building, and that's where it's going to stay.
yeah.
I saw that some time ago, but I remember that. Now I assume that the missus said, "Let's just take a ride."
You mean the wife? No,
Yeah, the wife said, "Your wife said, let's
I
just take a ride."
I think it was my idea.
Oh, really?
I think it was my idea. Actually, I think she had been there once before with some friends of hers. So maybe it was her idea, but it was a good idea regardless.
Yeah, and a parking garage right above it. I think you can park in
Yeah.
there,
Yeah. Parked in the parking garage there. Everything was simple.
and
Uh,
then go downtown and grab something to eat.
we did.
Walk back up. Did you? It didn't stand up. You came back the same day, I assume.
Oh, yeah. Just a day trip. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, day trip. So,
Anyway,
hey, jumping to another subject, I was going to
let's
ask you:
jump.
did you happen to see that Netflix uh, uh, what they call it, Fox Paw boxing match where people make money pretending to fight?
Box paw.
Faux pas.
No, I didn't see it. No, I didn't. I
Sands,
had
the
no
Sands
interest
boxing,
in
but
that.
whatever. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Whatever it
that
is,
was the
it's
Mike Tyson
yeah.
internet dude kind of
I
thing.
didn't think you could still pull something like that off. It's like saying, "Hey, listen, let me put on a pair of boxing shorts and offer to go fight Mike Tyson. And since we would be 30 years older than him, we could."
You can fool some of the people all of the time.
Can you imagine? Imagine how funny that would be with my sagging, chest muscles or those beautiful breasts I now have and all that stuff
Ah,
like that.
please, no,
I mean,
no,
run.
no
I
pictures,
would
no.
float like a butterfly and run like a rabbit for $2 million. I mean, I suppose
No,
you
I
could
had
do
I
it.
had no interest in that. I think number one, boxing's barbaric to begin with. It's wait a minute. The objective is to cause brain damage in your opponent. I don't know if I like that
But
idea.
they pulled it off.
They pulled it off.
They
Like
said
I
it was
said, like I said,
well viewed, and so it looks like Americans have not diminish their desire for some kind of
bloodlust.
yeah,
I don't
some
know.
kind of carnage, either on a racetrack or
Yeah,
in a sporting event or something.
yeah.
They're looking for that. So I found that amusing.
Hey, on a more pleasant topic, I
Pleasant
think
time.
I think we need to tell everybody who paid us a special visit.
Oh yeah, yeah. We were fortunate enough to run into old Buck Terry.
Superman Terry, old Buck Superman Terry was down here. We were it was a great time. We were able to get together, have coffee. Uh,
He was basically in the state and decided to come by and visit. So I thought that was really nice. You know, folks, we always talked about having some friendships, and uh, that's one of the pleasures of it. I mean, he popped in, and what did he do for old Buckdell? What did
oh,
he
you
do?
you had a special
That's right.
treat.
He said hello, and then He said, "This is for you," and whips out a Churchill style Arturo Fuente cigar. And I said, "My friend, you must really like me to part with one of these." So, anyhow, big thanks to Terry. It was a pleasure. A lot
Yeah.
of fun.
I'll tell you, it was at the coffee shop. It's like you were the MacGyver brothers. You,
Yeah, yeah.
I thought, well, yeah, maybe I'll just leave these two alone here so they could scheme
Yeah,
electromechanical wizards.
yeah. Well, he's he's on the heavy side of the MacGyver thing. I mean, he can weld things and do things. I'm on the small side,
Oh yeah,
on
yeah.
the sort of like it was the culmination of table antics, like taking my watches apart and fixing the second hand or something, as opposed to building a 3,000 pound steel framed workbench or
That you
something.
can
But
land a helicopter on.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's quite a
yeah,
guy. It was a lot of fun. I was
yeah,
glad he could
yeah,
visit with us. So
yeah,
so all the best to him.
yeah. Hey, since this is kind of a random episode here, bits and
Hmm.
pieces that we're sweeping together, I
Well, we're
thought
allowed to do that.
we're allowed
That's
to
what
do that now.
two
Yeah,
old bucks.
we're allowed to
We
do that.
sleep. People sleep, and people were awake. And
This is kind of, I'm going to like to do a quasi stump the buck. Okay. And we'll kind of
okay,
go through this together. And the topic will be names for groups of animals. All
like
right.
like a covey of quail or something like that, or
Exactly like that.
like a
Exactly like
murder of crows.
a
You
murder
might
of
not.
crows. That's on my list, actually. So you nailed that one. A gaggle of geese.
Yes,
Now, you being an African, you know what lions are called together.
they're called a pride.
Pride. There you go. Of course, whales are like an iPod.
They're like pods.
Okay. And here are two I didn't know now. Um, do you know what a group of kangaroos are called together?
The kangaroos, joeys.
Those are the babies.
Oh, okay.
A
Oh,
mob. A
oh,
mob.
that's right. I've heard that before too. Yeah,
Okay. Have you? Now, this is one I had never
now,
heard.
those Australian guys, they made that up, right? For them, they made
You
that up.
know, you know. Good day, mate.
Yeah,
What is a group of flamingos called?
Floridians.
No,
Oh,
everybody's got one in their front yard, but
yeah,
pink ones. But
the pink
this
Floridians.
is a wonderful, wonderful name for a group of flamingos. I was just
That
dazzled
would
by.
be interesting. That would be interesting because there's really not really too many groups of flamingos. I thought there was ones at the racetrack at Hialeah, but those guys are all sort of trained. But I guess some wild ones blew in, so we still have them back in
We
the
have
States somewhere.
flamingos, yeah, yeah. Well, we have,
But
certainly have them
I have never heard it,
at the,
never seen a flock of them where they were referred to a specific name. And that would be, what name
and
would
that
that be?
would be a flamboyance. A flamboyance of flamingos. Isn't that great? Doesn't that just roll off the tongue?
It
Flamboyance of
is,
flamingos. It
it
sounds so
is.
right. It's
And the next time we're together, we will look at each other and say, now there is a flamboyance.
uh,
I think we could use that. We could use that in a lot of references. There's a flamboyance.
too much time on our hands,
Too
huh?
much time on our hands.
Yeah.
Hey, I have I kind of have an interesting story.
All right.
This was something that the my wife started laughing about, and she's. I said, "Why are you laughing?" And she said, "This spoon." I mean, out of the clear blue, she said, "This spoon has a name." I said, "A spoon that has a name." Now I thought, okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, spoons have a soup spoon, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a teaspoon. Okay, I can see it. But this spoon was called Sika Petuga. Yeah. Siabe Cuba. Sikabetuka. Siabacuba.
That's not an American word.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
not an American word. But it in it has a it had a particular connotation. I said, "Well, why are you laughing about this?" And she said, "That spoon, when it translates into English, it means to dig with fear.
Dig with fear.
Okay. In her culture, if you are a senior person or a powerful person, and you
Okay.
are and you are sharing a table with someone,
Okay.
in our case, it might be something like Thanksgiving, and so you are issued this particular, and I don't even know if it's said derogatory or not, but you're issued with this spoon, which is bigger than the spoons that everybody else has.
The big spoon. Okay.
Well, not a big spoon, but just bigger than.
Mm-hmm.
So when we are going around the mashed potatoes, let's say we're all sharing, and you have this power, your spoon is bigger. So she said, and when they dig in, they get more than you get. So I said, it's
Because
like
they're in
because they're
control.
a senior, right, or something.
Senior. Yeah.
So we started laughing about this, and then I thought about this as it translated into the real world. Like if you're more powerful, you have a bigger spoon, and as you dig into the common element, in this case, maybe money, or you know what I mean, tax dollars or whatever, you come out with a bigger share. And so I said, why is it translated? She says, because when you watch this, you're in fear that they will dig out more than you get.
Won't leave enough for you.
won't leave nothing for you. And
Uh,
I said that in a nutshell is the way the world is right now. That those with the bigger spoon
those with the bigger
will
spoon
dig more
will
often
get
and end
more.
up with more than you. So
Wow. Yeah. Very.
so there is an actual expression in a language, Southern African language.
Now, what
that
language is that? Is that Zulu
that would
or
be this would be Siswati, but actually it's
Siswati?
Zulu is very similar to that.
Okay.
But it actually describes that situation and that spoon. And I said, you can just
Very
say it.
appropriate, huh?
Yeah, he has the bigger spoon, and that's the way the world's going to be
That's the
now.
way the
So,
world's going to be. Interesting. Yeah. They,
but I was going to say, but I think in a lot of cultures, uh, there's expressions that we don't actually run into yet, are just as funny and just as cool and just as neat as everything we've come up in the English
mm-hmm.
language. And we've got a name for everything. You know what I mean? I remember I always laugh at a pickup truck, not just a truck, but this is the truck that picks up. So it is a pickup
It's a
truck.
pickup truck. There you
That's
go.
right. So
So,
an
well, thank you
ironing
for that.
board.
Thank you for that. That was fascinating. That
Oh,
was
Buck
interesting.
Dale goes off on another tangent, and 16 people fell asleep.
Uh,
So all the best
hey,
for those
listen,
folks.
before we run out of
Yes,
time here,
yes.
I do have some feedback on the story that I read, Love Letter by George Saunders.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to cover a little bit of that. Most of the people really loved it. A couple of people didn't, but that's okay. That's the beauty of a short story. I think everybody sees the world through their own lens, and
Mm-hmm.
but I did get one really interesting response from old buck Jim Morris. This is a fellow that I worked with a long time ago. Okay, now he's a Brit. He moved to Canada and then eventually to the U.S. He enjoyed the story. We had a nice back and forth. He gave me permission to read part of what he sent me. And after commenting on the story, he shared portions of a memoir that his father, Doug Morris, wrote in the 1930s and 40s when he was a young man growing up when the world was kind of at the brink of war. So he sent me two excerpts. I'm going to read something out of the 1939 to 1941 excerpt, and I'll read another one on our next episode. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
let me just jump into here. And this is from Jim. He says, I thoroughly enjoyed your reading of the George Saunders story. Yes, some chilling lines reminiscent of many places in the world today, and certainly yesteryear. Yes, it could happen here. I'm not that naive. Fear can do strange things to people, making them lose sight of moderation, community values, and respect for others. I'll skip down. My dad told me of his experiences during World War II in London, probably about 30 times. But as George Saunders said, old folks do repeat themselves. That's to be us. Uh, his father worked in a laboratory where several of his colleagues were active in the British fascist movement. The subtle and not so subtle support or activism for that movement by these colleagues was troubling. He was persuaded one evening to attend a meeting. It ended just like many other gatherings of that time in a confusion with fights and chairs thrown. At work and indeed at social occasions, anti-Semitism was rife. He would be asked if he knew any Jews and their activities. Scary stuff for an early 20s guy from the north of England trying to make ends meet. He was pleased to see those troublemakers at the lab being fired. So this is one of the excerpts here. I'm going to read. This is from the years 33 to 36. It says the years, this is his father, Doug Morris, writing this. The years 1933 to 36 were full of political events. In Germany, the rise of Adolf Hitler was constantly in the news. And prior to those years, Mussolini's rise to power in Italy was likewise much discussed in the press. Sir Oswald Mosley started a new political party which appealed to the frustrated and especially the anti-communists who saw the USSR as a constant threat, not so much as a nation, but as a political threat to the generally accepted concept of British democracy. There were those, of course, especially the British Union of Fascists, who felt it was better to let Germany and Italy have a free hand in the anti-communist confrontation. Others felt the right and left could each destroy the best of our democracy. I attended many open-air political meetings in which these arguments were often held. In general, they were healthy debating meetings with no violence, much wit, and a serious interest to most of those who attended the meetings. It was not until 1936, January 36, when Mosley's black shirts, with Mosley addressing the meeting, showed themselves in their true colors. Let's see, a young man asked Mosley a question to which he took exception, and he signaled to his black shirt stewards, who promptly seized the questioner and not only thumped the man, but threw him down a flight of stairs and out of the hall. Fighting broke out all over the hall, fists and chairs. The black shirts had come with fingers covered with rings and metal knuckle dusters and taped with insulation tape to cause maximum damage and injury in the fights which were inevitable. During this melee, in which I had taken no part, verbally or otherwise, I got into an alcove with my back to the wall so that I could avoid being involved. After all, I had only gone to the meeting to listen, and I belonged to no political party anyway. However, I was attacked by two black-shirted thugs who tried to pull me from the alcove. They did not succeed. I'm skipping here, and nearly 100 policemen came into the hall to clear it. Okay, I'm going to stop right there because I think we're running out of time. But I thought it was just fascinating to peer and listen to one young man's view of the world back in the 30s. I think it's just fascinating. So we're gonna do more Doug Morris in the future.
Or what
episode.
he had to endure.
What he had to endure, and it gets even more interesting as we go further and learn more about Doug's life back in the 30s and 40s. Hey, so thanks very much to Jim. And thanks very much to his father, Doug Morris, who was insightful enough to document his world, the world that we live in, that we lived in. So until next time, folks, take care. Don't forget the bonus track in the show notes. And watch some of our YouTube clips. We'll be posting some of these, some snippets from this episode in YouTube. Until next time, this is Old Buck Dave saying, speaking for both of us, Dave and Dale, take care, folks. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.